by the courts to generate revenue through removal. And then the courts might generate more revenue by pursuing his mom, right, for child support to repay the cost of foster care that the court just ordered. The prosecutor's office may have a similar contract, right, to prosecute the cases. They're pulling in both Title IV revenue, and I've seen contracts where, the prosecutors are incentivized by an equation that literally the more poor children that are removed from their homes, the more revenue that the prosecutor's offices can generate. The prosecutor's offices can generate further revenue through child support contracts, again through the prosecutorial contracts, right? Again, incentivized. The more cases processed, right, the more harm, the more revenue. And then the policing agencies come into play, and probation as well. And the policing agencies, can have both contracts to generate revenue from Title IV, from the foster care revenue, and from child support to carry out arrests. I've seen contracts where sheriff's offices will literally share revenue with the amount of money they make from carrying out arrest warrants and child support proceedings. And then they often become sort of the foot soldiers for these enforcement mechanisms, right? For the factory operations, in which they're pursuing endless fines and fees on top of fines and fees. So the courts will frequently order fines, find that there's a fine from a misdemeanor case, sometimes even just a minor traffic situation will quickly grow to thousands of dollars, right? When there's fees, laughs on top of fees, on top of fees, right? And then interest is charged, right? There might be a private company that gets involved in collection as well that adds on more fees on top of that. But in several states, the sheriff's office will take part in these collections, and then not just in the fines and fees, they'll pursue utility cutoffs, evictions, foreclosures, repossessing cars, gaining, again, a contingency fee. In some jurisdictions, they call it a poundage, right? So in New York, I write about an example where there are what's called city marshals in New York. And even though they're called city marshals, they're not employees of the city. They don't earn any salary, right? They're like mercenaries, like bounty hunters, hired guns. They make all their money, all of it, by the pursuit of the poor. And in the city's own documents, right, they list the average revenue that one of these city marshals is pulling in after costs, $420,000, right, per city marshal, and then that generates revenue for the city, right? So again, they're commodifying not just poverty, they're commodifying the harm of poverty, and it becomes an inescapable. And that's just one of the examples. I mean, there are even sheriffs that are generating revenue through food, right? In Alabama and in some other jurisdictions, there have been stories where some of the sheriffs, they get a certain amount of money for food for the prisoners, and if they feed them even more cheaply, right? If they really diminish like the amount of food and the quality of the food as cheap as they can, they'll pocket the rest, right? And that's been reduced somewhat in Alabama, but it's still happening. They're still taking a 25% cut. So it becomes almost endless, and it becomes overwhelming, as you start to dig into these examples.
Yeah, well.